past the end of the course, rehold.
Start with the newest one that I'm working on. This is the Smith & Wesson M&P 45. This is their, I guess, their newest of the M&P series that is out now. And this kind of shows a lot of the stuff that I do to make the guns a little more ergonomic for people to shoot, a little more comfortable to carry, and a little more efficient. Some of those things are like the grip texturing that I place on the grips of the handgun. That keeps it from being so slick, which does multiple things. One, just as I grip the gun to draw, I don't have to grip it as hard to get a sure positive grip for the draw stroke itself, which also adds to the ability to maintain just a comfortable grip for trigger control, so that you're not over gripping the gun, decreasing your trigger control. That's one of the major benefits of that. Not to mention just if your hands are wet, things like that, it makes a more positive grip. On the outside of the slide, you're looking at, instead of having extremely sharp edges, like you can see that this slide hasn't been worked over yet. You can see that the edges here are very sharp, very corner type, which makes the gun a little less comfortable to carry if you're somebody that carries it all the time. It can be abrasive to clothing, things like that. And so I round the slides out, makes it a little more concealable, more comfortable to carry on a daily and everyday basis. Also, this is a factory slide with the black finish. This is a ceramic based finish that's on this slide, which makes it a lot more rust resistant, pretty much impervious to rust as it is. I've used the ceramics and some of the polymer based finishes for years and have never had a slide rust, regardless of how bad I treat the firearm. The other thing that's done to these are sight changes. The factory sights are the Novak design. I don't have any of my design in yet. They're not quite out on the market. These are Scott Warren sights. I'll use different sights from different manufacturers depending on what the customer's needs are. One of the things I like to do to the front sight, a lot of the instructors that I work with, a lot of people we shoot with, find that we really want to see that front sight obviously in a hurry. That's your main priority. And so we will coat the sights around the tritium dots so that we can see those a lot faster. That's one of the things that I run on a lot of my guns. A lot of my customer guns are getting more and more requests for that. Internally on these guns, there's a number of changes that are done. I don't know if you can see it here. If not, I can take the gun apart shortly. Feed ramps, chambers have all the tooling marks, all the factory type little tooling marks and things like that are left in them, completely removed from the firearm. And then the feed ramps and chambers are polished literally to a mirror type finish, enhancing reliability of the feeding of the round and the extracting of the round during a firing cycle. The triggers on the M&Ps tend to be fairly heavy, especially the 45s. I get them in the shop anywhere from 7 to over 8 pounds for the trigger pull on these, which is for most shooters unacceptably heavy. I go in and completely reconfigure the sear, some of the trigger bar design, and depending on which of my triggers I use, whether it's a short trigger or long, which is an internal design change, the actual sear block is redesigned. This trigger, particularly this, is my duty gun that I use when I work uniform patrol. This actually trigger breaks at 4 1/4 pounds with about a third the over travel on the factory gun. When this gun came from the factory, it would actually engage the sear here, release the sear here, and have all this over travel to the rear before the shot was fired. Now it engages the sear here, and that's all the over travel that you have left, which also shortens the reset, which makes a faster trigger cycle. My long trigger, which is an internal design change, it's not an external design change, is actually where it engages the sear out here, the over travel stops here, and the reset and everything happen at the front, which just sets up for different size hands, and also just sets up, we have a lot of 1911 shooters that have went to this gun. They're used to a long trigger in their 1911, so they want their finger to be more extended and work out here. So I offer two different triggers in that firearm as well. One of the guns that got kind of popular and was fortunate to actually sell all of them in a short time, which I was pretty happy about, was my limited edition Glock 19. Part of that edition, and something that's pretty much in the way it's done, proprietary to my shop, is this is a Glock 19 frame, and you'll see that it's configured considerably different than the factory. Instead of having the large hump in the grip back here, it comes straight down the back strap, which makes it smaller in the hand. It also makes it considerably easier to point. Most people find that a Glock points high. This points more like a normal gun. The trigger guard's been rounded to get rid of the hook. The other thing that's done to this is the magwell cutouts. That's one of the few things that I kind of push people to get done to their firearms, as well as trigger, sights, reliability. It makes sure that if you have a magazine stuck in the gun, whether it be during a malfunction drill or during a reload, it's easier to rip the magazine clean from the firearm because you've got a good area to get that to do it, to rip it out from. And it makes it a real positive way to deal with the magazines that way. And then when this frame's not completely done yet, as you can see, it's one of works. This will be contoured even on the frame so that it matches as well as the slide, so they'll all roll right together and be matched up. The triggers that I put in these are set with over travel stops now. All of them have a setup to where, again, the trigger comes back, has a few thousandths over travel, which makes reset quicker, makes working the trigger faster that way. Also, the magazine well will be opened up. Again, this one is not completed yet, but the angles that are in the front of the magazine well that are stop points that kind of catch the fronts of rounds or magazines, it will be completely rounded out so that it's a nice smooth insertion of the magazine. I'm not going to shoot those up. Those are my good haul points. I just loaded in.